So the time is 5:34. I'll go ahead and call the work session to order.
Almost enough to get there.
It's the work session of the mayor and council for the city of Snellville for Monday, March the 11th, 2019. And we'll go ahead and skip to the discussion items for the item A for the town center, just discussion of next steps with the joint development authorities. So we do have a quorum of the DDA present,
Yes.
and then we have URA and DAS members present, but not quorums. Okay. So this is pretty informal. What we're planning on doing, there are some issues that we need to go into exec session to talk about. But let's start off, if there's some, any discussion that could be had on anything that doesn't need exec session.
So there's some new folks there. Explain what can be an exec session and what cannot, just for some of the other folks.
Okay, for executive session would cover anything that has to deal with acquisition of real estate or sale of real estate, or options to buy real estate. So anything like that, if there's a property the city or DDA is interested in purchasing, that would all be an exec session. Also, if there's anything that could be a litigation matter, if there's been threatened litigation, then, or there is litigation, then that would be an executive session item.
Personnel.
Personnel, if there's any personnel issues, which hopefully you guys won't run into, and that's it. So if you have other things, what we could talk about, if anybody's got any issues or ideas with town center in general, or where we're going with the vision, anything like that, we could discuss that, or if y'all just want to give us a rundown of what you've been doing.
Most of cobblestone can be talked about in public, because that's a well-known issue.
Okay,
Our purchase is already on the table.
okay.
So that's part of the conversation.
So what we've been doing with that, basically,
Yeah.
with the cobblestone project, we've been sitting down looking at property management and leasing agencies, and which direction we're gonna go in. We interviewed Brand Property is that Brand Property it was, and JLL for the first two. And then we had a meeting with Maria, who actually is the leasing agent of the property right now. And she really acts as a property management consultant to, his name is Rodney, who owns the facility now, is his name?
Ron Davis.
Ron, yeah. And it was a very, very interesting discussion. We learned a lot. It's 100%, occupied. She's renewing leases right now that need to be renewed, so we kind of wanted to learn about what had to come up over the next few months, and then as part of that discussion, we have to determine, who we're going to get to manage that property. And as we were talking before, right now, it'd be great if we could leave somebody in place that already knew the information that was there and was operating the facility. So that's really where we stand going forward on that.
I'll add something. We also have touched on how long we think we will own it, and that relates to what type and how much we spend on repairs. That's still to be discussed.
And that's a big question. We're doing this and putting these leases together, how long we feel it's going to be. I guess in my mind, I don't know if everybody else feels, we need to think we're operating it for a period of time going forward.
Right.
A pretty long duration, I would think, so.
Yeah,
All the tenants seem happy, so I don't think leasing is going to be an issue if anybody. People move typically, they just need more space. But I think it's a very valuable asset to have because of the location. And when stuff starts coming out of the ground, I think it's going to be more valuable.
And the leases that are being renewed, what's the duration on those? The time frame? Did she say?
1 and 2s, basically.
Yeah,
right
most
now.
of them 1 or 2 years.
So you had kind of an informal policy of, they wouldn't really do a whole lot for you if you did a 12-month, and then do some painting if you did a 24-month, and they do some painting and some flooring with a 36-month. So they gave us a list of the rents, and if you average it out, what that average per foot rate is. fairly low, but it was full. And she said she has no problems keeping it full, so.
Just to kind of add to that, most of the majority of the rents are short-term, 1 year. And that, again, was kind of an informal policy they had because they were intending to sell it. They didn't want longer-term leases, a lot of longer-term leases encumbering the buyer. And they were hoping we would be the buyer, so they thought that would be a good thing. But we can, over the coming future now, transition those to leases that more might meet our needs and give
Yeah.
us a little more secure future.
Yeah.
Nobody's looking to leave, so.
Right.
Yeah, and it should cash flow, so it's,
Yeah, I mean, in my head, I'm thinking we'd have it at least 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, that's kind of what we were thinking, yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
5 years probably,
Okay.
at least.
Yeah.
A lot of it will depend on how fast the town center develops too.
What's gonna happen from there?
Yeah.
But with the rents the way they are, it's gonna be a desirable location. I mean, it's already a desirable location. And depending on what goes in the town center and what those rents are, you know they're gonna be higher.
Mhm.
It may be a very desirable place even after the town center's built.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, I think after the town center built, especially.
Right.
Exactly.
And you're just talking about maintaining it, getting it, you may have to facelift it just to make it look more about what you guys were wanting to do downtown.
Mhm.
But everybody I've talked to is very happy there. You know, little paint, little railing fix, and pretty good.
That's good.
Anything else we want to talk about?
Yeah. Where we go next?
Anywhere you'd like.
Well, we have touched on a few things, and one of the things that we agree on or think is we really ought to look serious is that area from the end of the,
Bill, that becomes an executive
Yeah.
session
well, can we just say in general?
No, because you'll start to identify properties. I hear it coming.
Yep.
All right, so save that for the exec session.
Okay.
It'll be coming up soon.
Anything about the general vision or the retreat you want to just kind of converse through?
What we did, what we came up with, and, you know,
There's copies of this stuff on the middle of the table for council members.
you're gonna hear this again, you'll hear a lot of this again tonight.
Well, your report's only going to be 5 minutes or less.
It's gonna be last, right? So in our joint planning session that we had together, with all of us together, we agreed to work on, kind of conjunction with staff, even though staff actually has hired this intern, we're kind of working together, and we agreed we would hire the intern the next time. So we've just recently they've hired an intern, we're working together to develop a business communications program so that it would help develop a database and a delivery strategy for us to be able to communicate with our existing businesses, our owners and our operators. A lot of our owners may be in other areas and regions and cities and states or whatever, and the actual person is operating it, we don't really communicate directly with them, and make sure they know what's going on and how we get messaging to them back and forth. So that's something we're gonna work on together. That will help the DDA in identifying businesses and understanding what we have, and then it'll also help staff because it'll help them get their messaging out as well as sponsorships and things like that. So that's one thing that we did. And then we agreed to engage with the Small Business Development Center to see how we could use their resources to help us in the DDA itself to identify what needs to come into the DDA, but also to kind of get them teamed up with staff through the Commerce Club to start some business programming for our existing business owners. I learned more about what the Small Business Development Center does, and it's really amazing, the information they have that would help people if they just knew what was available. So that's really what the strategy is in that, so.
and one thing in that regard, Harold Melton is going to be the speaker at the April Commerce Club. He's the Chief Justice of the Georgia Supreme Court.
And he's on the cover of our
Yeah.
Georgia
Georgia
magazine.
Trend, yeah.
I feel like an important connection through the school system.
I feel like I know somebody famous.
Yeah, well, I know you. but-
Is that about it from that?
There was a second intern that's been hired just for information purposes too, that's gonna work with the URA and the DAS that's in there. And she's gonna look at, two different things. One is kind of the town center related to transportation and where it's going, and 5G deployment and what that looks like, and what we need to be making sure is in there from a city perspective for that thing. And then the other side is she's gonna be working about half of her time with Karen Foote and looking at the whole issue of a youth center something and how that might stand up and be funded and all those things. So she's gonna be working on it. We have officially hired both of those. They will both officially start. Well, they already officially started, but they'll both be here starting next week,
Okay.
working on
Good.
their stuff.
Very good. And then any questions of council of the DDA, URA, or DAS?
Just wasn't gonna put a shovel in the ground.
Well, I thought we talked from the city side of things, where we are. I mean, we're still at the linchpin. I think this is pretty public knowledge of getting the post office off the mark. Their delay and their change of plan of what needs to happen has pushed everything back. We were hoping for the development agreement to be signed. I think we pretty much agreed on all of the points of the development agreement.
Well, pretty much, there's some
Still a couple little
negotiating still
things.
to do.
But they're kind of on hold, especially with the public market building, because they can't go out to market until, and really try to sell, to bring somebody in there without some dates. So we're still waiting on, and we can go over that in exec session too, exactly where we are on post office, but it's just getting that final decision from them, that they're ready to, or they've agreed with what's gonna happen, so, that's
Would
kind of
you-
where we are.
Would you remind me where we are in, with the library and its schedule?
The library has, the design of the library has progressed very well. Or at least the schematic plan for the library, where our architect, TSW, has established a good relationship. The county has been much more positive lately, and they have a pretty good understanding of where the layout's going to be. We've also had a couple of meetings. At the last meeting, the mayor and council had a chance to look at the second floor above the library and provide input. And then following that, I think there was a meeting with four high school principals.
Yeah.
And
And
then a
students.
lot of students to get their input on that second floor. So, I mean, we basically are ready to take the next step on the library and the education space above. So it's gotten off of square one and is progressing well.
Any estimate of when any ground would be broken on it?
What's that?
Any estimate of when groundbreaking might occur?
That goes back to previous discussion on the post
Yeah.
office.
Yeah,
Okay, that's tied in with the post office too?
definitely,
Okay.
definitely. It's the key piece.
Yeah, I know it is. I didn't know if we could go ahead with part of it or not.
Yeah, because part of the issue is we want to grade that whole area all at one time. Plus, where the parking deck was going to be situated is in that post office property. So without that, and to do the library, part of the requirements are the parking. So it just all, it's like a bunch of dominoes. Once we get that one last piece, it'll all start moving. But until we get it, we're kind of stuck.
So you feel like you're in a situation where you can, that it's gonna push forward, I mean, in a shorter period of time or not? You just-
I think so.
Okay.
Well,
Yeah, I mean, you're dealing with the post office, you're dealing with the post
I
office.
say
right?
that.
You say that, I mean, I know
Yeah.
the goalpost have moved a couple times
Yeah.
on this thing, so.
There's more details there that can be covered in executive
Okay.
session.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay. Does anybody else, do you have any other questions from of us at this point on what's going on, or anything you guys want to know about before we go into exec session?
Mayor, in the cooperative effort between the DDA and the city council, a key ingredient is when you sort of make decisions about the length of time you're going to be operating cobblestone. In a few weeks, we'll be coming to the officers of the DDA to get them to sign off on bond documents that will finance that purchase. And then we really get in strong relationship with each other, because the cash flow will carry it for the time period you're talking about, and then you gotta coordinate a city budgetary amendment to carry it to sale and a use. And so there is this real coordinated, and you're closing some of the loops on those financial commitments when you say that. So that, to me, that's a key ingredient when you say, okay, we're gonna go 3 to 5 years. We're sort of targeting that cash flow coming off of the rents to finance the bonds, and then there'll be a coordinated effort to make a transition out of that, because bondholders still have to get paid even when it's in transition. That's one big transaction. It's $3 million, and it's already approved by the courts. There will be another one that will be sort of the financing mechanism for the town center. And so we'll be coming back to DDA, which again, DDA does the financing mechanism, city council puts in the cash flow in that. That will be probably a little bit bigger in terms of
Quite a bit.
Of the money. So I didn't want to come to you one day and say, hey, we need your signature without you knowing. The two big transactions coming up, and it's dependent on, of course, that development agreement that you were asking about. Your lawyer, Blake Sharpton, is really good, and he's really been the lead in terms of constructing that. So that's, and he's doing it in a way that's sort of traditional for this town center type development. He's done it a lot before, so we're blessed to have him in that relationship. But that'll be forthcoming really as soon as the variable of the post office is worked out. We'll be passing the exact same documents that you guys signed off on a few weeks ago, and then there'll be a closing with it that'll be similar to the one you're going to do in late April or early May.
And just a full disclosure, that go back to your $3.1 million bond offering in the city. The city is backing that with the full faith and credit of the city. That's why the bond rating will be good and all of that. I think I would just want to make sure mayor and council and I know the DDA's heard this, but we say it breaks even, but there's a kind of a breadth of that break even. It may make a little money the first couple of years, it may cost some money the first couple of years, so it's not going to be an exact break even from the start. I think as we get further down the road, I think the break even, or even making a little bit of money, depending upon how much is put into reserves and other things. But I think, just in full disclosure, we've looked at some of the numbers, and there is a little deviation at that in the beginning here. And until we get really solid into the whole thing and start spending, probably we won't know exactly.
You did say 4.1.
Yes, it should be 4.
4.1 million. That's
Right.
a
Not
million
three.
here, a million there.
Yeah.
we're
I
talking
picked up
about-
Tony's
let's
number.
get that
The
clear.
purchase price is 3.875 plus the
Yes.
money to do that, so we get to about 4.1. And we have asked Bill to delay the first payment of the bond for a year so that DDA has time to build up a reserve, collect rents and all those kind of things before that first payment comes due.
We can't, SPLOST money can offset the next bond issue,
Right.
but it won't offset this.
Right.
Anything else for everybody in the open session? No? All right, so we'll go into exec session. I just read this normally. During the work session of the mayor and city. It's still automotive. Yeah. There's never anything outside the building, no cars located in it.
As far as what they're going from, they're going to the whole thing is the quick trip right there, probably causes no more harm.
Right.
Battle line that closes at 6 o'clock.
Mhm.
The use is fine, I don't even really think the buffer will be bad on it either, but I don't think we'll see them again. Maybe we do, I don't think so I think they worked it out.
So the buffer's being reduced to 10 feet? Is
Yeah,
that what?
and,
Okay.
and if we recommended that based on the applicant's, letter from the property owner, which they have, and, you know, as we talked about the North Road corridor, we want to commercialize that area a little more, so we continue to enact, huge buffers between dissimilar uses that we don't want to be there, it kind of works
Right.
against us, and, that home is unique in the fact that they bought that a few years ago just because it was a ranch, and the guy, the dad or the father, husband is in a wheelchair, so they needed to move to somewhere they could afford that was all ranch. And of course, Snellville has plenty of those, and that's where they kind of ended up. But
It's my house.
if you look at all the other homes that are kind of in between the scenic highway and North Road, most of those are actually going, the home ownership rate is going the other way. You know, and there's not a lot of new buyers. It's a lot of investment properties in there. There's a problem with the one across the street. So sooner or later, I think it's gotten to that point where a lot of people don't want to live right behind or
Right.
own behind 124. So that's kind of what we based the approval of the variance on. We had no idea that the applicant or the next door neighbors were going to come out because thought that had all been settled. So it was actually the son-in-law and the daughter that came questioning what had been going on. And I guess more for just clarification purposes. And I thought Valerie did a good job about talking about it. So we'll just see what happens next time.
Okay. So that'll be, we'll waive the first reading and put that on our March 25th agenda. We've got public input for the livable LCI update. We've got a brief presentation by Megan with Jacobs Engineering, and then we'll open the floor to public comment on that.
And that'll complete our contract basically with Jacobs.
Okay. And then we'll be done. And then we have lots of board appointments. We've got Kim Gallant being confirmed for the judge, swear her in. Then we've got Alan.
Alan.
You, Connie?
Yeah. Alan and Cindy for the DDA.
And as far as I know, both of them will be here.
Okay.
We need to delay item G. We're not quite ready for Angela's application yet
Okay.
for youth commission.
So do you want to postpone that? Or-
Postpone.
Well, that's just
To-
a nomination and confirmation. We don't have to do like a postponement, do we?
Just skip it on the agenda.
Just say we're
Yeah, just
delaying this item. Then we have the resolution to have the moratorium for the shareable dockless mobility devices. Anybody have any questions on that?
I'll be no on that.
Okay. And then we have the LCI update approval. So that's it for the council meeting. Any correspondence?
We do have some correspondence from Gwinnett DOT. The bridge on Springdale Road at No Business Creek, which is just past the old PD heading west. Construction will begin very soon and expected to be completed by November of 2019. Part of the improvement project will be replacing the existing bridge with a new 2-lane bridge, installing sidewalks and drainage structures. The new sidewalks will connect to the existing sidewalks located at Roby Lane and end at Dale Court. So they'll begin soon and finish hopefully in November of this year.
Is that road gonna get closed? Will it be closed, did they say?
No, it will not be. No closing. No closing in here. They'll either have a runaround or they'll just switch from the old bridge to the new bridge.
City Attorney's report?
We have a hearing coming up on Cooper Springs on Thursday. Still on, we're not sure they'll hang in there. We countered their summary judgment with our own, and so we'll see how they react to it. I did want to report on animal cruelty. And good news is, I think if y'all take a look at what you see in this little handout, this is the county animal cruelty provision that was adopted in 2017. And so there's a definition, the first page is the definition of cruelty. You got two felony provisions for aggravated cruelty to animals, and that's under 2 on the second page. It's just one short, says the felony of dog fighting, the OCGA and its tax code section. It's got felony aggravated cruelty to animals, which is 1612-4. And then you've got this section, which is their code 10173. You got a provision that takes away a person's right to have animals if they've been convicted of cruelty to animals in the past. And then you've got a lot of things that fit those definitions of what y'all are looking for. And as you can see at the end of this, they report the date of adoption. It's a 2017 amendment that created this cruelty to animals. We adopted their code, and I thought I may have put that in there too. Yeah, the last page of your handout is what you see on Snellville's Code of Ordinances, which is a reference to the Gwinnett County Code, but it was done in 2000, and so to get you sort of up to speed, it says you as amended in that provision, but I don't think you can hand off your requirement to adopt to another entity. It works to a certain extent, but I would just suggest that we put it on, re-adopt this, empower our police department to enforce it when they need to, in part of that enabling legislation. And then you've got what I think is a good response to what your concern was, which is cruelty to puppies. Yeah. It would fit, failure to take them to a veterinarian. All of those fit right into this cruelty provision. So take a look at it, and we'll have a suggestion for your work session next time that hopefully y'all can adopt.
And this would be for any business or individual?
Absolutely. Anybody, period. We had been asked to also look at a suggestion concerning people throwing out brochures or advertising, or plastic bags with rocks in them with advertising on it. And I think Chuck has a recommendation there that you guys can take a look at too.
I emailed them out to anyone that needs a paper copy of it, Roger. Yeah.
It's easier on the eyes.
Sure.
And we're taking a handbill, sort of an archaic kind of handout thing that was unsolicited brochures. Handbill is what it was called. We've sort of amended your code to do away with that language and just made it unsolicited advertising of any kind. We have to be careful not to talk about the content of the advertising, because that's a free speech issue. We don't regulate that. But if it's unsolicited, it's illegal. And so it's just across the board. You've got to invite somebody to throw the rock on your driveway.
They sign up and say garbage here. I've been asking about this because I've had people ask me. The problem
Every so
is
often we get,
the newspapers get thrown, and then they stay there and they get run over, they get wet, and it's trash somebody has to pick up. Or it goes down the storm sewer, and then that's another issue.
Yeah, and that's the big thing. It's like, I won't say who, but Sundays, they throw out the little
Yeah,
bag full of
Papers.
stuff, and if the house is vacant, it sits there. They get wet, they get nasty. So it's like every so often, we get somebody that's on a tear about trying to do something about it, and we had some provisions, but it just doesn't ever seem effective
and
for
also
very
some of the
long.
stuff that goes on the mailbox, because the post office doesn't enforce that. It doesn't matter what it is, they don't have time or anything.
This is only on the mailbox, not on my front door.
It's anywhere, yeah, it's any
So-
any delivery to private property, and
So-
frankly, public property too, it bans
If
it.
you're campaigning and you don't get an answer, you're
That'll
not
be
to
the
leave.
thing.
That's different.
Yeah.
That's different.
Yeah,
How is it
political is,
Is it?
Because it's political speech.
N- it-
Or religious speech, then it's okay.
If we're going to allow people to hang things on the door, leave it when somebody's
Uh-huh.
not at home, we need to write the exception in for political speech.
What about religious? I get
We
I
need
get
to look
quite
at
a
our
bit.
solicitation
Yeah.
ordinance, because I thought we had some provisions in there for campaigning and religious.
It is, but that's going door to door, that's not leaving something.
Right.
Leaving
Right.
it, well,
Oh.
and people leave, in fact, I have something out there, I just leave it out there so I don't get a new one next week. Actually, it's gotten to that
As
point.
written, both of those things would be improper unless they allowed you to, unless you got an acknowledgement that you could leave it. And so those exceptions, like we did with solicitation, the exceptions have to be written in. So those are,
Right. So if we're to campaign soon and leave flyers, we're
Put the rubber
technically in
band on the
violation.
doorknob.
Okay,
This is under the litter ordinance. This is
Right.
under solicitation. This is
Right.
litter.
so we're littering.
well, if you throw it on,
Well, no, but you know how that goes.
I'm still putting it on doors.
So it's just
So you can
some, I
change
mean,
that in
something
court.
to think about.
That in religion, you can challenge it, you will probably most likely win. Just I don't see how you would do this because there's so much on
Well, I don't, you
religious
know,
and.
on the other hand, I wanna be a good steward to the city. I don't wanna break, you know, I don't wanna be in a position where I'm violating our ordinances. Going out and saying, you know, I was a part of this, but yet this is exactly what I'm doing.
It is easy to write those exceptions in. We just need to know what your thoughts are there. We need to
Except
know.
for our own personal campaign.
Yeah.
yeah.
We have clearly
Except
marked.
for the
The current
campaigns
members
of
of
Roger, Christie,
Christie,
Dave, and Barbara.
I mean, not mine, but I'm sure I'm gonna be doing that on people's behalf.
The hard part is when, you know, you're targeting the pink bag with a rock.
Right,
And it's business solicitation, unrequested, or yellow newspaper in a bag that's all advertising, just to the driveway.
Right.
So we've done that without violating the free speech requirements. I mean, we said, we put in there some description of what was on the paper, and you can't do that. So to get it to where we need to be, is it has to be unsolicited inquiries of any kind. And now the exceptions are what you have to write into it. So
Okay.
political and religious.
and religious,
And anything
educational.
else. We could do educational.
But then you run into, you know, there's a fine line between soliciting, I'm doing a fundraiser for school, or am I providing, you know, I want you to vote for SWAST.
It would have to be, you know, you'd almost have to craft it where it was public school communications. You could, just educational, then the guy
Right.
Yeah.
who's
Yeah.
doing the work on your roof
Right,
will think he's educating you, but if it's narrowly written to public
Yeah.
school communications.
public schools.
And those things are intermittent. It's the every week, the paper.
Well, sure.
It was a big issue.
You don't get to pick between intermittent and daily, though, you have to.
No, you don't, but that's,
And that's so,
if you accept some of this stuff, it doesn't happen all
does
the
the no
time.
solicitation sign not serve the same purpose? Does that not count for paper?
It doesn't, you know, it's a salesperson, you know, is what it's really designed for.
Besides, we're not
Peddlers.
soliciting, we're just throwing stuff out as we go.
Okay, well, y'all let us know if you think of some other exceptions.
Well,
and we'll get
it's
you.
already illegal to put stuff on the mailbox, right?
Yeah.
Well,
It is.
In the mailbox.
But
It's
on the,
illegal.
on the
It's
knob
like,
hanger
I
though
guess.
is a different,
Okay.
Yeah, but
what
nobody
we,
enforces
what we
it.
do.
Yeah, no one enforces it.
Yeah, we hadn't done the inside the mailbox at
It's
all.
not just inside, it's on the support structure. I looked it up.
Yeah, it's-
Federal law is
So
actually
on-
the support structure, all that. The only
So
thing
front
is-
door
Front
handle?
door.
The same guy who makes decisions about selling post office property is the same guy who enforces that.
Gotcha.
You're looking at like
So we're
a 3
good
or
for the
4
next
year
10
window
years.
here
Okay.
between thumbtacks. So
Now,
it doesn't get.
There was a time in my life where there was a postman that used to deliver mail. I can't remember where I lived at the time, but he would, if something was stuck to the
He would
mailbox,
take it.
he would take it off,
Yeah.
but he'd throw it on the ground, so he was littering.
No, my mom would
But it
come
wasn't on
after.
the, it wasn't on the mailbox,
Yeah.
so. Okay, so 2 things for y'all to look at.
So
Get
I
some
can
guidance
appropriate
on,
and stuff.
and we can,
Okay.
I guess we'll see if y'all have any questions or comments on these and when we'll move them onto our next agenda. Or whether we'll put it on the next one or wait. I mean, it's really up to,
With the exceptions, I'd like to see the exceptions.
yeah. Well, you need to come up with any other exceptions and let Tony or Chuck know about
Okay.
them.
Need more than I already did, or
And they could
put it in writing?
write them and,
Okay.
and we could take a look at it from there. Y'all could figure out how we maneuver it and make sure we get it reading like we'd like to.
That's just political and religious. That's it.
Education,
Yeah,
communication,
yeah. Figure out.
public education and communication.
Does anybody ever do that?
Well, you know, you occasionally have a SPLOST vote kind of thing.
It's kind of political.
Well, it is, but it's education and communication. We want you to vote yes, but there's occasionally people that go around and,
Yeah.
you know, put things. So it could be considered.
Okay, is that it for the city attorney's
It is.
report? We did discussion item A, so we'll be on discussion item B, which is an update on the Clean and Proud.
March 30th.
March
we're going-
30th.
The city of Snellville has adopted Oak Road.
March 30th, okay. Not the 23rd.
Yeah, the
No,
new change.
the
Good.
30th.
Okay,
So we're gonna go out and we're trying to get as many city people out so we can show people that we're not just doing things and talking about them, we're actually getting out and cleaning up. So however many people we get out there, we can break them into groups and do one side up, one side down the other. And then we're gonna deliver all the garbage to Gabe. Now, this is done through Clean and Proud, so as far as I know, we just bag it and stick it in an area and they come by and pick it up.
10 o'clock? What time, 10 o'clock?
Yeah,
were we meeting?
City Hall. Bring your friends, whoever wants to come out, but I think we need to show them as a city, we're taking the lead on it.
Okay, 30th I can do.
Okay, and then we got our projects update.
Are we bringing bags?
They supply them.
They supply? They supply?
Yeah.
Oh, clean and beautiful supplies.
Yeah.
They
Okay.
they want us to call 3 days in advance, and then I'll get the stuff, and they'll have gloves.
They- Bags and gloves, and bring some kind of eye protection. I was talking with Chad Livesey, and he said boots, gloves, and eye protection.
I'll just pray.
Might get poked in the eye with one of those sticks with a
I
nail
have
in
more
it.
hazards in my regular job. Not really.
And we'll also have high visibility vests.
Hopefully we'll have some vests by then.
We'll have some. Have you been over there yet?
I was gonna go,
Detoxed and-
have you been to see him?
Go through
Okay,
detox
alright,
and
good.
then they're gonna hose us down afterwards.
Oh, yeah.
Jesus, Mary, and Joseph.
Okay,
All right.
projects.
We do have ongoing daily property discussions. GWR, like we talked about last time in the Eastwood, Pinehurst neighborhood, they do not have an update from them. They're still working on their numbers, so I'll bring those back when they come. There is, as I said about the library work earlier, it's going going well. We should have, once we have a conversation in the morning, I'll have an update for everybody on Wednesday or maybe late tomorrow morning. Trade center zoning, once again, town center zoning and the area development, the adjacent areas that we've talked about. It needs to be wrapped up with the UDO, wrapped into the UDO discussion. Jason gave you a little update, I guess, on the overlay, potential overlay expansion. So there'll be plenty of time for mayor and council input and more work session programs when the UDO draft is available. Roundabout construction, we have I guess we have a semi-commitment on the turn lane at Ridgedale and Fars, and that's important because there's an April 4th bid opening for both Ridgedale and Fars roundabout as well as the turn lane. They've sent them both out. They'd like to start them at the same time, maybe get one contractor. And the county has given the contractor a punch list on Fars and North, and that's underway. We aren't quite 100% complete, but they're working on their short punch list. 78 and 124. The city sign is up over there at, I guess at Rawlins and 124 for the businesses that are up on the hill. I think it calls a lot of attention to those businesses. Hopefully, one thing that I wanted to kind of tie in also to this, we will be submitting the community development block grant application. Which is for phase 2 of the trail of our greenway, which will run from City Hall, out in front of City Hall, across 78, in front of First Baptist. I think I gave you a map last time, and down Church Street and tie into Briscoe. We feel like we have a very good chance to receive those block grant funds, but there is a tie-in because if you start on the south east corner over there, that's the start of the census block, which makes us eligible for CDBG funds. So we have to take it across 78. And Austin and I had a chance to talk to Robert Moon, the superintendent of the 124 project, to try to get a small change in the pedestrian island out there, so cyclists would have an easier time maneuvering through that pedestrian island because it's raised concrete. And it's a saving to the project. It's just basically you are rounding off a pie-shaped piece of concrete. Well, Georgia TOT turned us down. They didn't want to make any changes to the plan, even though we're talking about a minute change. So we're working with them to try to get that change. But Robert Moon and Pittman, they've been very good to work with. I can't complain about them at all. Roy, I guess I've noticed that the traffic has gotten a little worse. That they've kept the lanes closed a little longer than they have in the past. But it's going to be it's going to be a little bit busier. I'll send out. I think Eric finally, Robert did send us an update late this afternoon. I'll send that out to everyone. And but they have been good to work with. I feel like if there's an issue, we can get an answer from them. SDS negotiations, really no change. I haven't heard anything there.
No, there's been a couple of more staff communications between some staff with Gwinnett Municipal and the county, but there's really not any substantive discussions going on until after the transit vote.
The 2017 SPLOST, it's really is tied into the county DOT. They're working on their traffic studies at Wisteria and 124. So it's ongoing at the county level, and they keep us well informed. Budget planning, it's continuing. We're gonna start internal conversations this week and next week. Ordinance development, kind of got the update from Tony and Chuck there. They're working in a couple areas. Let me just update you on a few other things. I don't know if you've, when the sun shines tomorrow and you drive in front of this building or the police department, take a look at it. It's so white, it will blind you. Melissa did a great job in soliciting and working with different bidders to get these buildings cleaned. The concrete looked awful, and I think they did a really good job on our building. What's that?
Did they do up by the roof?
Yes, yes. Up by the roof, columns, bases. I mean, I think they did a really good job. The green landscaping, we didn't get any bids. There was an issue with several of the contractors, so we put it out there again. We'll probably have to start a week later, but we're going to work with the contractors. I think we will get bids this time, but we couldn't just negotiate. We had to go out again. So.
Are we conflicting with any of those dates, with March 16th or the April?
We were going to do it,
Events on
we were
the
going to
lawn?
start on the 18th, now we'll have to start on the 26th, so.
I'm just curious as to how
And
that
Gay is
works.
trying to find out, what a week does to the sod growing in and being worked on.
As I sit in Gretchen's chair, I know that'd be the first thing she would want to know, so.
We also received bids on the build-out for the upstairs and the window improvements. And we are working with the contractors. Basically, the build-out, the two low bids were about $221,000 and $235,000. And then you had to add window improvements. The low bidder was about $30,000 for 23 window replacements. We are going to work with them to see if what kind of a price it would be on replacing all the windows. The new ones, they might be close, but they also might look like they're kind of put up there and they aren't very consistent. So PPI is having some conversations and we'll be involved with those two low bidders on the.
Who were they?
Stryker and Lichty. So, and Paul Hoover said he's worked with Stryker before. He wasn't sure about Lichty, but he'll check their references and their work. And I've got to give Brian Arrington a pat on the back. I think his best work ever. He put into his a press release about the senior meal program. We had more problems with the senior getting the word. The county just had there were a few things that weren't put out there very accurately, and Brian corrected all those, and with the last sentence really sent people in the right direction and straightened them all out, and I appreciate that. It's not always easy to do when you're trying to put out public information, so.
Yeah, I read the article in the Gwinnett Daily Post and put a clarification up there because it made it sound like they were completely taking over the building at Briscoe Park.
Yeah.
And Allison Wilkerson said the way they made it sound, it made it sound like they were taking over their senior center.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
completely.
I know.
And so people were going crazy.
Yeah, so there was a meeting, Brian organized a meeting, I don't know if Lisa's here or not, but with the senior group over at our center, and there were probably 45 people involved. And so we straightened everything out, and because those are folks you have to definitely meet with and talk with to.
Did they think that everything was
make
being
sure
taken
they-
over?
I don't think they
separated.
panicked that much, but they have been they've been given the proper information now, so
Change is bad.
it's kind of where we are.
Alan, you're welcome to come in and sit.
I wasn't sure.
It's a public meeting. Have a seat. Okay, that's all for your update.
That's it.
Just one note, I haven't gotten an evaluation for Butch. Did you send that to me?
No, I was just gonna talk with Butch.
Oh, okay, so you're not gonna be part of that program?
Form thing.
Okay. And then we need another exec session, or we're gonna, you need a motion to go back in?
I
Or what do we
don't,
do?
yeah, you do need a motion to go back in, but you don't have to read
You
it.
don't have to read the thing again.
Is there a motion to go back into executive session?
Motion to go back into executive session.
There's a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor? All right, we're going back.